Hi everyone, it's Taylor here, and today we'll be creating these two seasonal cards using one of our pre-printed foilet patterns, the Foilet Plaid. You can see it's pre-printed in toner, and I will be foiling that with gold foil and then blending over the top with the coordinating layering plaid stencil. I'll also be using the Farmhouse Sentiments, the Joy from that set, along with Stitch Circle Stacklets, Winter Greens, and the Little Bits bows. I'll be using some embossing powder, so I have gold, VersaMark, and my powder tool, adhesive and my drip drops in gold, Oreo and my black blender brush for blending, and the gold glitter paste. So I have my pre-printed panel here, and I am going to foil that with gold foil and then use the coordinating layering plaid stencil. You can see the first layer is what is pre-printed, so I won't be blending with that layer. I will only be blending with the second layer in both directions. So first we're going to foil using the gold foil, and in order to save a little bit of extra foil, I like to just cut this into small strips that are going to fit on those lines instead of wasting an entire 6x6 piece for just those 4 thin lines. I want to cut this apart and then kind of piece it together on top of those lines. Now this does create just a little bit of a gap in the foil, so if that bothers you, then you will need to cut a full 6x6 sheet in order to not have that little bit that shows, but I really don't think it's very noticeable when the whole card is finished, so I prefer to just conserve a little bit of foil. So when you peel those off, you can see here how that pattern looks, and if you get any of those excess parts that are kind of stuck on there, if the foil sticks, you can use an adhesive eraser just to get those off of the background. Now I'm going to place that down onto my grid paper placemat. Use some pixie spray because that stencil is very intricate and you don't want those lines shifting around. So I've put pixie spray on the back, and then I'm going to brush over the top using Oreo ink and my black blender brush. Now the ink does not take on any of the foil color, so don't worry about brushing over those parts that you've already foiled. I wanted this to be very dark, so I went over it several times and then rotated the stencil 90 degrees so that you are stenciling those lines in the opposite direction. And I did Oreo again for this, but it would be really pretty to try this with 2 colors, one in each direction. So here's what that finished piece looks like, and we are going to cut that down so that I can create 2 cards from this one 6x6 pattern. I'm cutting the alignment squares from around the edge, and then I want to cut each piece down to 2 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and that's what I'll use on each card. I decided to take the piece out of the middle and use the pieces from the 2 outside areas. Now I'm going to cut 2 circles from the sugar cube cardstock with the Stitch Circle Stacklet, and I'm going to cut several of the winter greens tiny pine boughs from that set, and I think I cut 8 in all to fit around the 2 cards. Now this step is really fun. We are going to take those little pine bough branches and we're just going to dip them into the Happy Medium gold paste. I'm doing that with all 8 of the branches, and they do take a little while to dry. I think I left them for about a half an hour or so and moved on to the next step. So I powdered my circle, and now I'm going to stamp the Joy in VersaMark so that I can emboss that with the gold embossing powder. I have stamped this a little bit below center because we're going to put those pine boughs over the top portion of the circle, so I didn't want to stamp it too close to the top. So when I have 2 of those done, we're going to cut out 2 bows from the Cherry Pop cardstock using the Little Bits bow die and my small sidekick machine. So once we have those pieces all together, everything is dry and ready to go. I am cutting out 2 card bases. These are horizontal folding A2 card bases in the sugar cube color. And we can also cut out a small strip about 1/8 of an inch of that red Cherry Pop cardstock to match the color of the bows. And now we're going to go ahead and assemble the cards. So this was a very simple process, just adding those plaid pieces at the bottom of each card base. And then I'll continue on by adding the strip of Cherry Pop cardstock at the top of each of the plaid pieces. I'm just using my Tombow Mono Multi Liquid Glue for these. And then we'll add the 2 joy circles using the foam dot adhesive, and this is the easy release tab, so you can easily pull those tabs off of the foam adhesive if you have any trouble with your fingernails getting underneath there. Now I'm going to attach those pine boughs with the gold edging on them. I'm just gluing down the first layer with the Tombow Mono Multi, and then the second layer I'm going to pop up over the top. I want the branches to slightly meet in the center and offset each other so that it gives them added dimension. Now you can see that my bow is overlapping my sentiment, so I'm just going to flag those little ends of the bow a little bit shorter so that it doesn't overlap the sentiment. And then I'll add a small gold drip drop to the center of each bow to match up with the color of the foil and the edging on the pine boughs. You can see how easily these came together, and you can find all of the products that I used at the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com.